and bones in rivers. And later on the show, 33-state battle with 2,102 recorded cases of cholera as NYC enforces strict camp rules. I'll be hanging out with Tunde Abaton. Good to have you on the program today. And Olabisi Dejefolutile. Good to have you here. All right, so we are ready. If you are, Journalist Hangout starts now. Sometimes rain can be a blessing and a burden. So it has been for the downpour of Wednesday, 3rd of July, which would never be forgotten in a hurry in Lagos. The attendant floods have ravaged many parts of the state, making many areas inaccessible for motorists. Viral videos of the flash floods have deepened conversations about what could happen in the coming days, as the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMED, has predicted thunderstorms and rains from Wednesday to Friday across the country. So we might just be in for bigger situations ahead. Let's share the story by TVC News' Esther Omopariola with you.
Residents of Lagos woke up to a rainy Wednesday as torrential rainfall overwhelmed parts of the city.
This is Iyanoworo, April Live at Iyanoworo. The flood has completely taken one side of the road totally. See, you can see car inside the water under bridge Iyanoworo.
Many found it difficult to get to their destinations with floodwaters making roads impossible. The flood situation caused traffic chaos, leaving many stranded. In the meantime, the Lagos State government revealed it is working to clear drainage paths and is appealing to residents to dispose of waste properly.
The drainage is full. People built stock on the drainage system. And I can tell you for free, they have blocked the drainage system. But we want to even go beyond that by saying, let us even give them a secondary collector that can drain more water, which invariably means it will be higher. And then the road level too. We believe if we can elevate that section with the drainage system and then the road infrastructure, we'll solve the problem once and for all.
As Lagos battles flooding, strict enforcement of town planning regulations and residents' commitments to responsible practices are crucial to mitigating the impact of the rainy season. Esther Mopariola, TVC News.
Well, that is the reality. Perhaps I should begin by asking what the situation is in your areas. Olabisi.
Well, my area is okay.
Okay.
We have our own different challenge. That is when you release, when the dam releases water. That is when my area gets flooded. But for Lagos and all the other parts that have been shown today, I want to say that it's not really strange. If it rains and you are driving towards the third mainland at Iyanoworo, where they mentioned, when it is raining, you have lots of flood flashes and flash floods there, and that's usually the situation. Lagos is a coastal area. I will talk about the problems.
Yes.
But naturally, when it rains, we usually have waters. If you go to a place like Ogba, around that filling station, Mobile filling station, Wahum, and where, you know that it's not easy when it rains. I've been in situations in Lagos during rain that I was driving a Sienna, and you know Sienna is quite high.
Yes.
The waters, the Sienna was enmeshed in the waters.
Just imagine.
Yes, more than half. You understand? You know, Lagos water is like, you just be going, you won't know. You will think you are safe.
Because some of those buses that were caught in the flood,
you will think you are safe. You will just be going until you just get stuck. and you just realize that you can't move forward and you can't go back. So it's usually very, very bad. And my experience is not yesterday. It's not even 10 years ago. But the question is, why do we keep experiencing this when we know the peculiarities of our situation? Yes, in some cases, we talk about drainages being blocked by residents, but there are obvious cases where there are no refuse blockage. Just like is it the commissioner that we showed now? Or,
yes.
Yeah, that he was talking. Yeah, he was talking about raising the road levels above the waters, so that will be a permanent solution. Okay. So there are cases like that is just what we need. But there are also cases where people block drainages with refuse and all of that. But what I saw in Oshodi today, I don't think I've seen that before. The extent of waters around Oshodi area is so terrible. That one actually took over all parts of the road, and I think that is a big problem.
All right, let's bring in Tunde. NIMET has predicted thunderstorms and rains from Wednesday to Friday. Today is Wednesday, so we have 2 days to go. What should we expect?
I think we already have a taste of it. Before the prediction came out, signs are there for all to see. Where I live on the borderline between Ogun and Lagos State. Anyway, we had no road at all in the last 15 years. There was no road. So you can imagine what happens. People are used to stay in that condition. But the real problem is that most of the abandoned projects around that area, bridges and co, have even increased the nightmare of the people. So for them to go out in the morning, and 80% of people live in that area, they work in Lagos State. For them to go out, coupled with the problem Lagos already had, Lagos is it's under the water, whether we like it or not, it's a coastal area. So we know that this thing will happen. But my own concern is that, yes, it happens in other civilized countries. We have enough warning and we have enough science. Either for lack of political will to do it, most of the problems of flooding in Lagos State are caused by people who are breaking the law with impunity, people who build on drainages. If you go to Oshodi now, I am very sure that a lot of people are built on drainages. If you build on drainages, the water will not move. And if it doesn't move, it will find its own level. So it will impact negatively on whatever infrastructure government has in mind. I think it should be a recurrent thing for government, probably in a week basis. We don't have to wait for when the rain will come. Right. This thing should have started, at least, we all know that between the months of late May or June and July and August, we have heavy rains, no matter the kind of ecological change you have had. But the government has to do something between January and April.
But this year, we've really seen in Lagos.
Yeah, in Lagos Island, it's more, yes, the Commissioner for Environment.
Yes, the Commissioner for
Lekki side and Obalinde. But there's a way in which people also flout the environmental designs for Lagos mainland.
All right, you spoke about buildings springing up, being built on water channels. When those buildings were springing up, where were the compliant agencies and their agents?
Perhaps the question you should ask is that, why should people be allowed to build in the first instance? Why must we be allowed?
How did they get the
papers? Yes, you know that we are in Nigeria and anybody can get any approval. And that explains why, since they have started the demolition in Lekki and Maryland, nobody has taken government to court. I am not aware if any of them, because government challenged them that they have been served notice. But we act with impunity in Nigeria. So I think the government, on the government side, the officials of the state government have to be much more compassionate and much more having the service of the state at heart. Because whether you like it or not, it will affect you. If you take money or take inducement from somebody to build house on channels, it will come back to you. Whatever comes around, goes around.
When you talk about compassion, it works in different ways. So this should be passion for government and the cause of government. Because if it's passion for the people, then it gets to a place you should demolish and realize that,
Yeah, well, it could be passion for the people, because if you refuse to apply or to approve any building plan, yes, you are trying to save the people that will be affected. A lot of people find their beds under the water today. So are you going to arrest your landlord? You cannot arrest your landlord. So I think we should be more proactive in all these measures. It will happen next year. You never know. And we had it since January that we are going to experience heavy rainfall this year, more than ever before. Like he said, what happened in Oshodi can only be compared to what happened in probably New York, all this, Japan, and all that is. What happened in Oshodi today?
All right, and as we conclude on this topic, I just wanted to mention the post on social media where a resident tagged the Commissioner for the Environment and showed pictures of some two people who were emptying their waste bins, into the flood waters. And then the Commissioner mentioned that they would be arrested and prosecuted, and that the house has been sealed.
You know what? Let me just add this. You are talking about people building on drainages and the rest. To me, it's still the failure of government, because government approves building plans, government inspects buildings during construction and all of that. So if this thing keeps happening, we can't continue to say they do this, they do this. Government shouldn't wait till people build houses before they go to demolish them. In a normal circumstance, under normal circumstances, those buildings shouldn't be at all in the first instance if our regulatory bodies are doing their jobs efficiently and effectively. So I think government should just will need to raise up their work in that regard.
Aspect. Yeah. All right, then. Let's move on to our next topic for the day. Various battles over welfare and sundry issues continue to rage in the Nigerian university system. Now, the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities has drawn a line in the sand by announcing its readiness to commence an indefinite nationwide strike from Thursday, 4th of July, if the federal government fails to pay its 4-month withheld salary. At its 48th regular National Executive Council NEC meeting, SANU noted that the federal government has failed to fulfill its promises to its members. Recall that SANU began the fight for its salary arrears in 2022 after its prolonged nationwide strike. Today, it does appear that we're gearing up for another strike, this time by the non-academic staff and, non-academic staff.
They also hinted that the academic staff, ASU, they will join them in that strike. Anyway, if the non-academic are not working, there's no way ASU can work effectively. Most of the universities we have in Nigeria today, most of them have just completed their end of season. And some students are waiting, call-up letter to go and serve. So you can imagine what will happen. What I just discovered is that we have a national, most governments in Nigeria have a national pension for not keeping to promise. In 2009, when students have to stay at home for 9 months, you can't believe that most of the things ASU and NASU are fighting for today that has been there for probably 10 years. Nobody is ready to implement agreement that a government official was present and signed. When you sign an agreement, it is an obligation on you to fulfill it. Yes, this 4 months salary, they are talking about 4 months salary. Let us assume every 3 months they are paying one month. The thing will have been over by now. Let us assume that they cannot pay it in bulk because of cash flow of government. Let us assume that they are paying it 1 month now. In 3 months' time, you pay another month. Before the close of the year, you will have succeeded in clearing the arrears. But the thing is that I think government should be much more, when they sign on paper, it's not necessarily mean a ministry official or a minister signing. But you also have to know that there's capacity of government to pay, to meet that thing. If the government has no capacity to fulfill that agreement, there's no point in signing it. You keep on discussing. Like now, federal government and states and labor, they are still talking up to tomorrow about the minimum wage. I think it is to avoid the situation whereby somebody will just sign minimum wage, 100,000 naira, and most states will not be able to pay it and will go back to the trenches again. Right. So I think government should be aware of the implications of agreement. Either they are under pressure to persuade these striking unions to go back to work, so that they just sign any document presented to them. They should also look at the financial implication and their capacity to pay and to honor. But it will appear as if you have a national pension for no honor. Just go to the table, don't want them, let us sign and sign. 6 years, they are still on it.
So on Tuesday, that was yesterday, I spoke with the SANU president on the news, and then he mentioned that these withheld salaries, their counterparts that are the teaching staff have actually been paid, but then they were exempted, their own payments have been withheld. So why should that happen?
Actually, the genesis of this pay was when they went on strike in 2022, and the federal government invoked no pay, no work, no pay. And eventually they called off the strike, and the government then assured that there will be no victimization of any member for going on strike. And eventually, NASU actually called his own strike off. SANU, NASU. Yes. They called theirs off ahead of the ASU. And ASU has been on its own pay and all of that. I think even ASU was paid this salary a couple of months back. It's not too long that ASU got paid. And I also think that NASU is complaining now because ASU has been paid and they have not been paid. I believe that SANU will be paid theirs. But I also think that ASU has never kept quiet about its own arrears. He's been talking about it. I think what successive governments have been doing about unionism in academic institutions is to kind of play them against one another, a kind of divide and rule game, you know, and it works for nobody but for government at the end of the day. As of the time that SANU was calling off his own strike at that time, it's like government was working more with it against ASU. Then if you talk to ASU members, they will explain to you that, okay, SANU, no problem. But now SANU is facing his own. I think what the unions should understand is that they should face government with their problems and that they shouldn't allow the government to use them against one another and do any kind of divide and rule. Because they have seen now that the union with the loudest voice is being heard at the detriment of the other. So I want to believe really that SANU will be paid. But if they want to go on strike, it's their right, it's within their rights.
But they'll be meeting on Thursday, and they hope that at the end, or in the course of that meeting, they would agree on something, because that Thursday will be the expiration of the 2-week ultimatum they give to government to make those payments. And another issue on the front burner for them is actually on the minimum wage. And they are faulting the call by South governors that state governments should pay based on their capabilities. Talking about the national minimum wage now, but that hasn't even been announced just yet. We don't know what the figure will be.
Well, actually, left to me, you see, we should solve this problem once and for all. For God's sake, Nigeria is a federation, and the 36 states we have in Nigeria, all of them take money from the appropriation account, federation account. Each of the states, left to me, should be allowed to pay what they can afford. Nigeria is not a unitary state. You cannot earn the same salary in Lagos and Niger State. You cannot compare the two states. You cannot even compare Lagos with your state. Neither can you compare Rivers State with Boshi State. Let them go the whole hog and sit down, look at the financial. Maybe labor people, they have researchers among them. Let them go and research at the financials of each of the 36 states. Because if they approve a particular amount now, NSA has said that they have no right not to pay them. It is wrong. We are not a unitary state. Nigeria is a federation, and the capacity of each of the 30 states is different from each other. So that is the danger. I say it's a national minimum wage. That is, it cannot go beyond a particular level. But we also have to look at the capacity of the state to pay. If it costs around 2,000 naira to rent an apartment in Minna, you know that to rent a room in Lagos, you pay about 15,000. So a worker in Lagos and River State, those are the two highest states in Nigeria. People should not look at the fact that Lagos is paying 100,000. Those in Boshi or in Minna, they want to earn 100,000. It's not realistic. Let us solve the problem. I want the committee to solve the problem, and the National Assembly to solve the problem once and for all, that it doesn't have to be uniform. But there's what they call living wage. Workers will always tell you that they are not being paid living wage all over the world. So the definition of living wage varies from one country to the other.
All right. And I think for the SANU and NASU, other issues they are talking about is infrastructure, in the universities. How much of a standard, do they maintain? Are the students actually able to get the knowledge, to acquire the knowledge they are in those places to get?
You see, when these unions go on strike,
Yes.
let me just put it first of all, that the SANU, NASU talking like this, I will say they are fighting for themselves. If it is ASU, I will agree that they talk about infrastructure and the rest, because they've been talking about it. And I will tell you today that most of the developments that we have in our tertiary institutions are products of the struggles of the academic staff union of universities. So many things, so many improvements. Talk of TED fund, talk of sending people abroad for further studies, researches, and the rest. They are products of the agitations. And even all these buildings all around. But of course, it is convenient for SANU to also talk about infrastructural decay now, which is obvious. But I also want to believe that a lot of interventions have gone into this decay in the past 15 to 20 years in Nigeria. And it now depends on how each university is even deploying the resources that are available from the federal government. See, I went to one institution in Ogun State Federal Polytechnic, Ilaro. No. If you see the number of buildings that TED Fund alone funded in that university, you would think that that university is being funded solely funded by TED Fund. And that is the way they allocate money from time to time to all these universities. But we also need to query the way these resources are being expended. We need to also look into the corruption that is in our tertiary institutions. And when SANU is talking about this, SANU is also part. SANU are the ones that are executing projects in universities. They should also be more concerned about how the resources are being spent. I am aware that a lot of resources go into projects in universities, in polytechnics, in federal colleges of education in Nigeria. Because, look, 2% of every money that goes into the consolidated revenue accounts is devoted to these projects in our universities. So it's a lot of fund. They have a lot of fund at their disposal. But some universities, they make good use of them. Some, you don't know where the money goes. So SANU should investigate that. They should ensure that those in authorities in their universities are doing what they should do, and they should ensure that corruption is eliminated. They shouldn't just be coming out to be talking about the infrastructural decay because we know we can all, that resonates with everybody. There are deeper things that they can look into that will save the tertiary institutions in the country.
And they also spoke about councils for the universities, for them to be inaugurated.
Well,
that
is another thing.
Well, I think I know about a month ago, the first list was published, which was heavily criticized, both within the political class and the academic circles. The government concentrated on that one about 3 weeks ago. I think they just have to give government time to do. But like she said, the problem we have in Nigeria is not a set of resources. Even when the resources are minimal, it's how you apply the resources. Go to most of the institutions, you will see abandoned projects. Either somebody or something. The governing council of the universities have to sit tight. It is the SANU people that should hold them to sit tight, because governing council approves all the projects that is either funded by TED Fund or federal government. So we have to get people of impeccable character in governing council for all higher institutions in Nigeria. Because the problem with Nigeria, I still believe that Nigeria can still afford to have functional tertiary education in spite of our challenges. But how are we going to disburse the fund? That is the problem.
Or how is the fund disbursed, being expended?
Being expended. See, that's the because when it
who is monitoring them?
We need it. Yes, they are asking for autonomy for universities, but autonomy comes with responsibility. If you cannot show that the money that has been given to you has been properly used, then your autonomy will be seriously questioned.
All right, then. Well, we wait to see how the meeting goes tomorrow, Thursday, but then we hope that also before then, they're able to dialogue with government and, we don't have a breakdown of work in our institutions because these children need to learn. They already lost some months and this is not the time for us to get to this point again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's look at another matter. The popular saying that the heart of man is desperately wicked has been made manifest with a nasty discovery in Rivers State, South Nigeria. The immediate past commander of the local vigilante group, identified as Felix Nwabokata, was caught in possession of 2 human skulls and bones by operatives of the State Police Command. The arrest was part of a clampdown on the excesses of a security and peace advisory committee in Omoko and other parts of the state, following numerous complaints about the operations, as well as clashes between the vigilante group and other security agencies. Imagine a group with the responsibility of safeguarding the community now being caught, in this den of human skulls and all. What's your reaction, Olabisi?
It's sad. It's sad. You can imagine, and the leader of that group is the one we are talking about here. Because if it is not the leader, you can say, okay, if it's an ordinary member, that there is hope that that can be cautioned, punished, or whatever.
All right, Olabisi, we need to take a moment.
Okay.
All right, so let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with that conversation. Please stay with us.
The Federal Ministry of Education invites the newly constituted chairman and members of the governing councils of federal tertiary institutions in Nigeria to the inauguration and orientation. The program is scheduled as follows. Registration and collection of appointment letters, Wednesday, 3rd of July 2024. Inauguration and orientation will take place on Thursday, 4th of July 2024. Venue, Idris Abdulkadir Auditorium, National Universities Commission, 26 Aguiyi-Ironsi Street, Maitama, Abuja. Time 10 a.m. daily. Kindly note that only the appointed chairman and members of governing councils will be admitted into the venue of the inauguration, and names of the newly constituted chairman and members of the governing councils is on the ministry's website www.education.gov.ng. Signed, Mrs. Didi Esther Watson Jack, ONMNI, Permanent Secretary.
Coleman wires and cable, great quality, now with the new look.
Glad to have you back on the program. During this hangout, we are talking about the situation in Rivers State where the immediate past commander of the local vigilante group, Felix Nwabokata, was caught in possession of 2 human skulls and bones by operatives of the state. So we're making a point before the break. And, I would like us to really tie this to the seizure by the Nigeria Customs Service only a few days ago of 844 rifles and over 112,000 live ammunition.
Number one, I think we have completely lost it. No value for human life. The way people get killed and the way we even talk about skulls, human bodies, and the rest portray us as a nation that, is being taken over by criminality. For the ammunitions and the arms that were seized, you will first of all ask yourself, is anybody going to war? Is anybody planning any form of war that all of us are not aware of? Because that huge number in a seizure. The number is very huge. Is it for sale? Is it for, and you see different kinds of armed attacks. You talk of banditry, you talk of kidnapping, you talk of terrorism and all of that. So where is the destination of those ammunition? And we still talk about, that is, mind you, that is because that one was seized. There are so many others that pass through our ungoverned, illegal borders and the rest, and they escape. So it's terrible, and it's a serious matter. And every day we come here to talk about cases of people being attacked and the security forces seemingly looking helpless, or the bandits, terrorists, the criminals being ahead of our security forces. It's like, because they have access to all of these things, but how do they get this access? And I also want to believe that the kind of ammunition that was seized couldn't have been brought into this country by poor people, because those weapons aren't cheap. So they couldn't have come in by just common criminals.
All right.
Should we now start interrogating the people behind the so-called criminalities in our system? Should we go beyond just looking at the people that we see that are paraded as criminals, knowing now that the fund that goes into all of these things is huge and couldn't have been borne by people that are similarly poor?
All right, let's bring in Tunde. Local vigilante, their work, their duty is safeguard the community, provide intelligence to security operatives to be able to nip.
The greatest danger you have in a community is when you have people who are trusted with the idea of safeguarding that community, and it has compromised the real security, because community or local vigilante, they are much more closer to the people than you can imagine. They are closer to the people than even local government. So when somebody compromises that particular system, you can see that those people living in that area, they have never been saved, and they are not safe, and they may never be safe if they have characters like that within them. As to the issue of, what baffles me in Nigeria is that when we make decisions like this, we ask ourselves, you say it has been seized. In fact, do you believe that under 48 hours or 72 hours, it was allocated to the small arms committee, and they displayed it yesterday, all those decisions. But the thing is that, have you investigated those who brought them in Nigeria? Because the thing was worth about 13 billion naira.
And that's along with other things,
along with other drugs and
some
worth 13 billion. It's not a job for a small man, not even a small man. It must be somebody who has the political will beside the economic capacity to purchase those things. Something is wrong, and because we lack surface scratching in Nigeria. When you arrest a criminal now, or you arrest somebody who fraud now, you just jail him and sentence him. Let us go back to the person that sponsored him. He cannot act alone. Somebody who brought that thing in, that man cannot be acting alone. He may be doing work for some other people. But it is unfortunate that the community entrusted him with their life. And you can imagine that he will have escaped with many such things until the 11th hour. You can run for a very long time. One day something will catch up. So I think what all Nigerians have to do is to search our mind and begin to look at ourselves, because our value system have gone to the dogs. Our value system, people don't value anything again. Right from the family, when your child brings in a barrel that you not give him to school and he brings him home, you ask him where he gets it. Because our value system have collapsed at the family level. People can do it at the extended family. You can do it at the community. You can imagine the community. Community, maybe it has about 5 CDA, and they are the one paying it, and they entrusted everything in him, which means as he was doing that thing, he has been using some of the men under him to commit the same crime. But this time around, he has to do it himself. So they should not just try him alone. Let us investigate deeper. And so the same thing should go around. Because the security of a nation should not be entrusted to the so-called state alone, but the people too have to secure themselves. So characters like this, I believe they are present in all the 774 local governments in Nigeria. They are present everywhere. So the CDA that is closer to the people, they should scrutinize themselves very well and know that the people that have entrusted leadership too. Because naturally, except for those people who just maybe took a second look, nobody will have asked him questions.
Yes, because
nobody will have asked him questions.
Because
an authority on his own is a commander of that. So maybe this is not the first time.
The police even said he attacked their operations.
You can
yeah.
So we will have been doing this for a long time.
Get away
Getting it. So I think we should just do more. All Nigerians in any community you find yourself, regard yourself as a part of the security vigilante for that particular community. Don't entrust it to anybody.
Whether or not you are identified as a vigilante or
not, we have to.
I guess that is even why this person was caught, because from the reports, there have been previous reports of the outfits terrorizing the people. The police said that much. So, which means that people themselves have been complaining about their activities, their excesses, and that is probably what even made the police to beam the searchlights on their activities before the guy was caught.
All right. Yeah. And our final topic for discussion for the day. The last time Nigeria and indeed the world contended with a disease outbreak was the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, a cholera outbreak is causing a health scare in the country as the number of cases continues to rise. According to Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Jide Idris, a total of 2,102 suspected cholera cases and 63 deaths have been recorded across 33 states and 122 local government areas in the country. The DG identified inadequate toilet facilities, poor sanitation, and unsafe water as factors militating against cholera eradication in the country. To ensure safety of corps members across the country, the authorities of the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, are enforcing strict camp rules. A certain time, they say, saves 9. Let's share the story by TVC News' Kemi Balogun with you.
In June, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention placed the country at high risk due to the increased risk of cholera transmission and impact. It equally activated the National Cholera Multisectoral Emergency Operations Center to coordinate the national response across affected states. Since then, the NCDC has remained active in addressing the current outbreak. Today, it is giving an update on its response effort.
Prior to the activation of the EOC, the NCDC, and through the National Cholera Technical Working Group, had carried out a number of activities following the prevention and response activities. We have conducted assessment of cholera readiness and preparedness capacity in 22 hotspots in the country and the high-burden states. We have provided relevant guidelines, standard operating procedures, and advices to states with a view to guiding their technical readiness and how to respond to the outbreak.
So far, 2,102 suspected cases and 63 deaths have been recorded across 33 states and 122 local government areas, with a case fatality rate of 3.0% since the beginning of the year. The Disease Control Agency highlights some of the challenges faced, with open defecation being one of the major contributors.
Our challenges include open defecation, and only 123, 16%, out of 774 local government areas in Nigeria are open defecation free. And Jigawa State is the only open defecation free state in this country. And more than 48 million Nigerians in this country practice open defecation, which is totally unacceptable. Other challenges include inadequate toilet facilities and the existing ones being improperly maintained.
NCDC says it will continue to pile pressure on state governments for the need to prioritize action for solutions that will ensure access to safe water, basic sanitation, and proper hygiene practices. Kemi Balogun, TVC News, Abuja.
2,102 suspected cases, 63 deaths in 33 states and 122 local government areas. This is taking on dimensions we probably didn't imagine today.
Well, I think if the government has been proactive enough, it should not have gotten to the level. Before Professor Pate announced yesterday that we had about 33 states, most of the states in Nigeria are pretending that the thing is not there. Most of them, I can begin to mention most of them, say, no, we have no outbreak of cholera. We have no. Now the federal government has come out because they have NCDC in all the 36 states of Nigeria. It's in 33 states of Nigeria. So it's a question of being proactive. Because when we look at Nigeria, people should not just be looking at the federal government. You should be looking at your local government and your state government. Because the federal government has no control over any land. It's the state governors and the primary health centers in local governments that should handle this particular thing before it gets out. So what happens is that, like the man said, we have left a lot of things undone for a very, very long time. There are times you get to the premises of a health center, you'll be shocked about what you are going to see. So when a health center that is closer to the people cannot be properly maintained, so epidemic can easily come out. And the problem we have is that we are not having enough education about the impact of this particular thing. The last time we had such outbreak of cholera was probably 1986-87, when Professor Lambo even said that they have supplied Nigeria as the deputy WHO with vaccine that can vaccinate all of us 10 times. But as he was speaking, Nigeria has not vaccinated 1/10 of the population. So the thing is that, like I said, government officials and anybody in any responsible position should perform their role very, very well. Because it's not government alone. It is about us. And Nigerians will also take their own health very, very serious. Mind where you eat. Mind what you eat. And mind what you put on. So all these things are preventable if you can be proactive enough. And I think NCDC should have come out earlier than this, before the thing, because it has almost become an epidemic. If you have 2,102 people as patients, either inpatient, you can imagine a lot of cases unreported that will be in our various families. So I think the government should do more at the local level, because I'm more particular about the local level.
And,
government should stop pretending.
All right, so talking about vaccines, yes, vaccines exist, but then the fact that it's not a regular occurrence, so government does not consider it to be part of a routine immunization. And I also understand that the shelf life is quite short. You know, if you get it in, for instance, you have to exhaust it within a very short period of time.
For almost all vaccines, they have to be kept under particular temperature and they have to be used within some particular period. But I don't even think our problem is vaccination. I think the
NCDC DG?
Yes, NCDC DG has told us where our problems are. And I think what we should do is to think of solving the problem. Imagine if only 16% of the entire 774 local government areas in Nigeria are free of open defecation. What does that suggest to you? Meaning that only 123 LGs do not practice open defecation. In a situation like this, what do you expect to see when there is problem? It's there. We know the causes. And it's also talked about toilets, facilities not being enough, and even the ones that are available not being maintained. We are talking about 48 million Nigerians practicing open defecation. That's huge. That's quite huge. We discussed this issue here some times ago, and I spoke about what we see on Lagos, along Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, near Kara towards the Secretariat, where you see this thing live and direct. You understand? And you look around these areas. How many public toilets do you really see there? How many of the facilities are available, even in areas where we have this cholera? And it's so unfortunate that 90% of these cases, 10 states in the southern parts of the country are responsible for 19% of the cholera cases. And anytime we want to talk about ourselves, we say we are enlightened, we are developed. What is the index for measuring development when you can't even maintain, you don't even have toilet facilities? You can't maintain toilet facilities. I think people in charge of our activities at federal, state, and local level, or maybe people should demand more from
their
representatives. Okay. Yeah, I think people should demand more from them. And I also think that people should be calling out their reps. I am seeing some of that on Twitter, on social media of recent, where a particular governor is being called out for not doing roads in his state. I think now people should go beyond just complaining silently. They should pick whoever is enlightened in any environment should pick areas where local government chairmen are failing and put it on the social media. Let's call them out and let them know, because the problem is that because we all talk about the federal government, every accusation is against the federal government. You find that people at that level, they just go to sleep, and it's as if there is no responsibility. For crying out loud, issues of toilet facilities should be the concern of local councils. It shouldn't even be the concern of the state government. So we need to...
If they allow local council to work.
Well, maybe when people begin to call local government councils out, then they too will now talk about the resources that should come to them, that is not getting to them. So that we shouldn't be talking about cholera in this age and time, and we shouldn't even be investing Nigeria's money in vaccines to cure cholera. Because you cure it now, it will still come back if you don't take care of the real problems that bring this problem.
All right, and with flooding in parts of the country, this is likely to get worse, because this same water that people are pouring dirt into would flow back to the source of your water consumption.
Because there's a direct linkage between the environmental sanitation and the health of the people. If you see most of the pipes, for states that are still fortunate to have pipe-borne water, most of them have busted. So people throw a lot of things into the gutter, into the drainage. People sit down in their home and they think they are drinking clean water. It's very easy. So there's a direct linkage between environmental sanitation, that's very, very important, and the health facilities of the people. So if the environment is not clean, that is why I just appeal to, like she said, all responsible people who are elected at every level of government. If you are a councillor, make sure that you talk to the chairman of your council. You will have enough courage to challenge whoever is holding his fund. If you can have enough courage, you will challenge. After all, every month, maybe people don't know, every month the federal government in the last 3 years, they have been publishing how much they give states. They will say federation account. States got income. They will now list each of the states one by one. I have never seen any state government that will come out with the publication of how much they have given their local government, because they are operating joint account. Because there's no way we are not going to discuss about this thing. If you don't release money for local government to work, we have all these cases all over, all the PHC. People are not supposed to report at the hospital when they have cholera. They are supposed to report at the public health facility, health center. That is what they're about. Everybody, ordinary headache, people will go to loot, they will go to lawsuit. If other arms of government, if other layers are working, we don't have to be going to all these places. So let people talk. Let us call our leaders out, either a councillor, either a member of House of Assembly, either a member of House of Rep, either a senator. They have their telephone. When you keep on calling them, if you can't call them, they can't go out and protest in your local area without being violent. Some people did this in my area about last week. They came out, they blocked the road and said that this is, and you can't imagine. Personally, since 2012, I've had the privilege of organizing for the visit of that place by 2 commissioners, which means between 2012 and now, 3 commissioners have visited that scene. The link road between Ogun and Lagos State, the thing is almost cut into 2. None of them keep on promising. They keep on. One of them, he was initially a special assistant to the governor. Later, he became the commissioner for works. And he will tell me that he has submitted the quotation to the governor. In small boundary. So you can imagine
how
that.
Do they follow through?
They don't follow through. So we have. I believe the problem in Nigeria today, we are in this state because governors and members of the House of Assembly, House of Rep, they are not doing their job. They are not doing their work.
Security votes and
they have security vote. They have everything. They are not doing their work. They are not doing their work.
I think Nigerians should just own their problems.
Yes.
I think we should own our problems because you are not going to, your captors are not likely to freely free you. You need to demand for your freedom.
Nobody gives you freedom.
No, so I think now people should identify problem areas in their communities and identify the people that should be responsible
for that problem,
for solving that problem, and go to them. And and thank God we are in the era of social media. Go there, complain, protest, and ensure that attention is given to you. Yes, the commissioner might be right. He could have submitted this quotation because he doesn't have the power.
That is it.
He doesn't have the money to execute projects. So he will rely on whatever the executive releases. So even organizing visits sometimes could just be mere photo ops
yes.
opportunities for people. And we need to go beyond that and ensure that things really work for us because, like you rightly mentioned, we are just starting the rainy season.
Just starting. Yes.
I also listened to the Lagos State government also talked about boreholes being dug near
toilet
facilities and the rest. Number one, why should individuals be digging borehole in the first instance if things are working? All of us are supposed to be getting our water from probably the state's water center. But we are not doing that. Now, you can't now control people because how many houses are being built daily? So how many...
Each having...
Yes, and each having boreholes and the rest. How many visits do you want to do to actually monitor and ensure that these things are not close to toilets and all the rest? So I also think that we should also start... The state government in Lagos should also up its game and think of providing potable water for the people. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. We are not reinventing any way. We need to look for permanent solutions to our problems.
And importantly, also talking about the people, we need to also emphasize the roles that we as individuals, as citizens and residents should play. By, you spoke about some ensuring that we wash our hands as regularly as possible.
They should stop dropping refuse inside the gutter of the house.
They will wash their hands when they have water.
Driving along the...
Do you know that?
For some people, you find them driving along the expressway.
And they have their
winding down
to throw refuse.
Through the car window.
And you describe such people as educated people.
To have a car, and yet you are that... Do I say backward in
so some are very irresponsible. But do you also know that if, for example, we have facilities where cameras are everywhere?
Maybe if cameras will work.
Yes, and you see somebody. Can you do that in the US, for example?
Because sometimes when you even go to get some of your paper card documents, they tell you that you need to get waste bins in your car. Those cars will be there yet. Nothing would happen. So as individuals, we need to take this up and ensure that, what we eat, what we drink, where we eat, and, where we go, that things are really clean. And when we use facilities, we should clean them up as though we'll be the ones to use it next. I think that's important because some people, when they come out of the restroom, you don't want to go there. They might be clean.
Yes, clean.
Imagine someone going into the loo before you...
Even when there is water facility.
Before you start, some will even, when they get there, they would flush. When they finish, instead of them to then exercise some patience to free what they have now, they just leave. Why did you flush when you initially got there, when you knew that it would take some time for the water to pump?
Yeah.
So we all have a role to play.
Both
government, citizens have a role to play.
Yes.
In the family, the community, and everything. Each of the communities should make sure that...
All right, then, and we need to, play our part in all of this. I must sincerely appreciate you, Tunde Abaton. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution. And Olabisi, thank you so much for your time and contribution.
Thank you.
All right, that's it on Journalist Hangout today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11. Join us on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Abosede Adeniwa Adremi. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.